Today, I want to talk a little bit more about shame and accountability. And this video is a little more in depth from the question that someone posed to me on TikTok. And on TikTok, I was talking about this idea that we see that's so popular on social media that we are addicted to our patterns and you're just addicted to feeling shame and you're addicted to anxiety. And if you've known me for any period of time, you know that that's deeply untrue. These patterns are survival strategies, they are predictive patterns. They are symptoms that formed in adaptation to an environment that we lived in. So they formed for a reason, and we're not addicted to them. That's a complete misunderstanding of neuroscience and how the brain works. And so someone asked on TikTok, when do you bring in accountability when healing from shame, especially when working with adults? And when they clarified, they said, the fine line behind hiding the fine line between hiding behind shame and using it as an excuse. And so this is so important and interesting to dive into. This is an invitation to start thinking about shame a little bit differently, to think about shame less as an emotion and more as a process, a neurobiological process that is built into the predictive patterning in our brain to try to keep us safe. So first, let's talk quickly about shame versus toxic shame. When we think about shame, shame or guilt are kind of a tool in society to keep people behaving in a pro-social manner for things where there aren't necessarily laws. It's also a way that we often teach young children. So, for example, I think a lot about, what about a young kid who is in the gas station with their mom and they take a little pack of lifesavers because they see them and they want them. They get out into the car and mom's like, where'd you get those lifesavers? And they're like, oh, I took them from the gas station. And then mom's like, oh no, we can't take things from the gas station because the employee might get in trouble and they might have to pay for it. Just can ask me if you want it and I'll let you know if we can get it or not, but we can't take things from other people. Go back in the gas station, apologize, pay for the lifesavers, and leave. Nowhere in that encounter did someone tell the child, you are so bad, but rather that behavior can hurt other people. Now, there's a lot of nuance about behaviors because behavior is not always clear cut of a right or a wrong. But there is this way that we kind of use this societal idea of what is morally right or wrong. And it's flexible for many people to help keep people, again, behaving in a connected, pro-social manner. That's very different from toxic shame. Toxic shame is the idea that you are bad. So if we're thinking about shame and accountability, very often the shame that people are coming in with isn't a sense of actual guilt and shame, though they might say, I feel guilty. It's actually an internalized process that they learned and adapted to somewhere along the way. So when I am working with people, I don't view shame as something to work on. I view shame as a flag or a symptom that something else is happening. So to me, there is no fine line between accountability and shame because they're totally, totally different processes. I do find that people, not all people, often come in talking about accountability, discipline, and shame. Accountability, discipline, and motivation as these things that they should be doing, that they've learned somewhere along the way. I'm just not good at holding myself accountable. I'm just not motivated. I'm just not disciplined. I need more strength, more internal kind of drive forward to do these things. And those are all internalized beliefs and strategies that we use to override ourselves and hold on really, really tightly. It's very different from being devoted to yourself and taking care of yourself and what you want for yourself. You can think about it like this. Shame is a lid that says, if I shame myself for having needs, I don't have to feel the terror or the anger or the grief that my needs won't be met. If I believe that I am bad, I don't have to face how painful it is that I wasn't seen or that my parents can't see. Understand the depths of shame as a psychobiological, neurobiological process. We have to think again about what happens in our early environments. And when we're in these early environments where our needs aren't met or we aren't seen, or there are environmental ruptures by caregivers, by teachers, by schoolmates, or the world around us, what happens is it creates this internal push and pull. If I feel emotions and I'm silly and I'm playful and I'm goofy and I make mistakes because I'm a kid and my parent or caregiver can't tolerate that and they get mad at me or they send me away or they hurt me or they withdraw from me, what does that mean about me? Does that mean that my parent is wrong or does that mean that I am wrong? And it feels so scary and destabilizing to consider that our parent could be in the wrong. That's not our fault that our parents can't tolerate us being a kid. That feels really destabilizing because biologically, We are wired to rely on our caregivers to keep us alive. And it feels like if we think our caregiver is wrong, we could be voted off the island. We would not belong anymore. They couldn't keep us safe, or they would push us away if they knew we felt angry or sad toward them. Remember, this is all coming from a child's mind, not an adult's mind. And to a child, emotions and experiences feel powerful. There's a magical thinking that comes from childhood of thinking, well, if I get so angry at my parent, I could burn this whole house down, and that feels really overwhelming. Or I get so sad that I feel like I could just sink into the earth to think that my parent can't see me. It's too much. It's too overwhelming. Children don't have the cognitive complexity or the nervous system capacity to handle existential experiences like that when they rely on their caregivers to keep them alive. So what happens is it builds up into this maelstrom of being just too much. It's too overwhelming. And so if we think about the nervous system is speeding up and it's speeding up and it's more overwhelming. And we need something to come in and push down that overwhelm. How can we live like that? Especially as children. It's hard enough as an adult to live in this overwhelm. But as children, it feels like we're going to die, or that we're going to not be able to live because of our parents realizing what we're feeling. It's complex and it's all below the surface, but it's simple at the same time. If a child needs to choose between themselves and the parent, they'll choose the parent. And so shame actually comes in this case, toxic shame, as a tool to shut down the overwhelm. It's part of the freeze, fawn, nervous system shutdown process. It's like an emergency brake. Your car is speeding up and you're speeding up and you're feeling more and more dangerous and more fast, and it's too much. And you can't rely on your caregiver to co-regulate with you to come down. Because remember, they're not able to meet your needs consistently. In this example, shame comes in, the idea that you are bad. It's not your parent who is bad. It's not your caregiver. It's not your teachers. It's you. You're the one causing the problem. That comes in actually to anesthetize, to freeze us, to pull the emergency brake and stop the overwhelm and make us feel like we are okay. Now, we know freeze is actually a really difficult state to live in because everything is shut down, but it works. It works to contain all of those emotions, shut everything down, and put us in this freeze fawn state where we can sort of go along to get along and pretend everything is okay. And in adulthood, that starts to look like people-pleasing, perfectionism, intellectualization. Those are all part of that shame shutdown process that contains all of those emotions and shuts down the terror. So sometimes I think about shame kind of like that black box on an airplane. It's recording everything that is happening and it's containing it in this little box, but you never need to access it unless there's an emergency. And it's sort of like that in our adult life. If something is activated in our brain in those predictive patterns that says this is dangerous, it puts it into that black box of shame. So when we're working on this, eventually we're going to need to look in the black box and say, what happened? What was the emergency? What actually happened there? But that happens so much in adult life to things that don't feel unsafe to us because we don't even realize it's happening. We don't realize that we're not feeling our emotions, or that taking care of ourselves feels dangerous, or having needs doesn't feel okay, because it's so embedded in these neural pathways, these predictive patterns, these adaptive emotional learnings, that now it's on autopilot. So we don't know it's happening. And it can shift also into this state of sort of pride, not prideful, but pride of like, well, I just don't have needs. Sorry, I'm just not an overly emotional person. I don't need to do any of that because we're so disconnected from our own state. So when we come into our adult lives and we say, well, I want to take care of myself more, or I want to be with my anxiety more, or I want to like move toward what I want for myself more, but I'm just not being accountable. I'm not following through. I don't have discipline. You kind of have the wrong idea there, right? Discipline and accountability and devotion and moving toward what you want, all of those things require a felt sense of safety, new neural pathways in the brain, and an adult consciousness observational state. So it's not that you're not being accountable or you don't have discipline. It's that being accountable and having discipline means moving toward what you want, which in your brain is encoded as unsafe. So because it's unsafe, it goes into the black box. Shame comes in and shuts you down. And it can be very subtle. Like we don't even notice it. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to like do my little nervous system practice every day, but oh, I'm too busy today. And oh, I'm too tired today. And oh, it's raining today. And like, it can be subtle like that, or it can be really overt. where we go on a walk every day and we're like, it's not going to do any good anyway. You're still going to be stupid, or like, you're still going to be lazy. Like, oh, you're doing a 1 mile walk while everybody else is walking a 5K. So it can be anywhere on that spectrum, but it's a clue that some part of you has encoded what you're doing as unsafe. So I don't work between shame and accountability. I look at what's getting in the way of you having what you want. And it's usually safety around these emotional learnings, around these adaptive strategies that worked for you in the past, but might not be working for you now. So if it's about taking care of yourself, what did you learn about taking care of yourself? What would it meant to have had needs, to choose yourself, to be on your own side in your own experience? I'm guessing if you have a hard time with that, you didn't get that modeled, you never saw it, and you learned that if you prioritized yourself, other people pulled back from you or criticized you or punished you or threw a fit, yes, even a parent or whatever it is. And so that got encoded in your brain emotionally as unsafe, as actually dangerous. So that creates an emotional learning that anytime you do something to take care of yourself, your brain says, this is dangerous. That is the process we work on. Accountability, or I like to call it devotion, doesn't come until you encode new pathways that says, this is safe emotionally, a new learning and quite a lot of new roadways in the brain. It's very possible, but not through force or through managing cognition, like by using accountability or discipline to grip really hard.